I hope that this photo is the cover of the textbook about 2020. It is really evocative. I like it. It's I like that it looks like he's being raptured by the Bears. Sorry, I just started checking my Twitter. I wanted to know if there was still a baseball season. I'm Hannah Kaiser, and this is the Bandwagon. Woo! There you go. Last week, we attempted to preview the season with a mixture of earnest trepidation and forced optimism. And following the first weekend of meaningful baseball in 2020, it is really tough to keep up the optimism. Allow me to spoil some of this digital video series magic for a moment. We tape episodes on Tuesday morning because it takes a little bit of time to cut down everything I say to a reasonable length, and also so editor Bob has time to put together a supercut of notably well-rested middle-aged Nelson Cruz driving in 7 runs in a single game. Check it out! Sorry, I just really wanted to talk about him, and it didn't fit with the rest of the episode. MLB was reeling from a coronavirus outbreak on the Marlins that affected, I think, 17 people. It says 13 people, but we've already had 4 more test positive just this morning. Owners claim they literally haven't even considered canceling the season, which, seriously, literally haven't even considered it? I considered buying a bakery in Doylestown, PA, and even looked up nearby property, which is pricier than I might have expected, but really pretty. At this point, even if the league is able to complete 60 games, the overarching narrative of the season will always be the sobering and hopefully slow trickle of confirmed positive cases and suspicious idle stints, punctuated by days of absolute chaos that underscore how precarious all of this is. Which is why, this week, we're going to bandwagon some storylines and performances that are not getting nearly the shine they deserve. For instance, Yoenis Cespedes is back, baby! Yo. Consistent with the Cuban outfielder's flair for the dramatic, Cespedes used opening day to make a compelling case for the NLDH. In the 7th inning, he bore down and went ham on an 0-1 pitch, those are both wild boar puns, to give the Mets the only run they needed and extend his home run streak to 3 games. 3 games in 803 days. Count me in the camp of people who thought that it portended poorly for Yo's career when, having seemingly exhausted every other possible lower body injury, his recovery was derailed Wile E. Coyote style by a literal hole in the ground. But you know, helps that you don't have to run at all when you hit it that far. In 2011, Daniel Bard was the best setup man in baseball with a flamethrower for an arm. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, he forgot how to find the strike zone, and the 100-mile-an-hour projectile became a problem for his career and anyone in the vicinity of home plate. For the next few years, there was a lot of this. In the majors, and then in the minors, and then in Puerto Rico. But this spring, as he was preparing to return to the Diamondbacks as a coach, somebody noticed that Bard, now 35, looked pretty good and should probably go be a pitcher in Colorado, which is actually not where I would necessarily send a guy who struggles to stem the tide once mistakes start piling up. But you know, maybe he just looked at a home run as evidence that he can throw it over the plate still. Whatever. Literally, Christian Yelich played his entire career between Bard's last appearance in the majors and this incredible comeback. I only hope that it wasn't the total lack of attention that comes from throwing it at an empty ballpark that allowed Bard to remember how to ride a bike, because now we're all talking about it. Speaking of, we don't talk enough about how the reigning coolest story in baseball is still the Babe Ruthian two-way sensation that is Shohei Ohtani. Of course, that can be because he didn't do the pitching part last year while recovering from Tommy John surgery, still hit 286 with 18 home runs. Sticking with the theme of this episode so far, Ohtani the Ace made his appointment viewing return to the mound this weekend, and
in the home half of the first, this is Mark Hanna. Drill to right field. That's going to bring home a couple runs.
Starting pitchers want to get through the first inning in their first start of every year so badly.
A 1 weekly right side gets through. 4-0 Oakland.
That'll do it, unfortunately.
Nope, that's one of the reasons I hope this season stays viable, so we can see how that particular plotline continues to unfold. Of all the storylines that stand to get overshadowed by the pandemic this year, the most important is that Black baseball players are speaking up about police brutality and the experience of racial inequality in America. And the concern I have is that these demonstrations will become desensationalized and decoupled from their radical origins before fans are even allowed back to see them live and in person. And I hope we don't skip to the sanitized symbolism of uniform patches and statements about unities. Because you guys, Mookie Betts, one of the best professional athletes anywhere, knelt during the national anthem in his very first game with the Dodgers, one day after signing a $365 million extension. That should still feel like a big deal. Anyway, I'm sure we'll actually have plenty of time to talk about all of this and more over the next few months, because this isn't getting shut down for anybody. Rob Manfred thinks this is working. He said so on television.
I don't put this in the nightmare category. We built the protocols to allow us to continue to play. We think we can keep people safe and continue to play.
I mean, why else did they have so many spare bodies warming in the wings? And on that note, we're gonna do fan, not a fan.
Fauci's first pitch.
Okay, so Dr. Anthony Fauci threw out the first pitch in DC. I was there and I did not notice. I didn't notice it happening whatsoever. I was extremely distracted by the fact that Juan Soto tested positive for coronavirus. Dr. Fauci probably should have been too. He was not. He was working on his first pitch and it did not go well. It was a socially distanced first pitch. He didn't want to get it anywhere near home plate. Probably everyone made that joke on Twitter already. Fan. Didn't see that coming. I thought it was great. I'm also trying to learn to pitch, and it is harder than it seems.
Socially distanced ump arguments.
Oh, this was so good. Derek Shelton and the umpire got mad at each other, and they wanted to make their frustrations known to one another, but they first had to very angrily put their masks on. And it was the umpire in particular. If you look closely, the strap on one side is broken, so he puts one side over his ear, and then he's just holding it. And then the end of the argument, as I kind of like this actually. Derek Shelton pulls his mask back up and he walks back to the dugout, which is not correct mask usage, actually. When you are arguing in somebody's face, that's when you need the mask. And when you're walking, less important. So we kind of got that reversed, but it really did have a dramatic effect. And so fan.
The Phanatic doing the wave by himself.
The Phanatic did the wave by himself. All I could think was, it must be so hot in that costume. How ridiculous do you feel just baking in a plush oven while no one's around to see it? Not a fan.
Lou Williams likes wings!
The NBA strip club thing? Somebody read it to me.
Did you know that the wings are named
Lou
after
Williams
him?
popped the bubble to get strip club wings after being named after him.
Did you know that the wings are named after him at this strip club?
Oh, I did not.
NBA player Lou Williams popping the bubble to get strip club wings that are named after him!
Well, actually, didn't he leave the bubble for a funeral?
Yes.
Man's gotta eat. Yeah.
Taylor Swift's new album.
I knew you were going to ask me. I was so excited. Okay, we did Taylor Swift's new album last year, and now we're doing another new Taylor Swift album, which is a real credit to how incredibly prolific Taylor Swift is. Jake, who's here with us, correctly reviewed the album after several hours of forced listening as music you can sit at home alone to. And exactly, correct. That's what we all need right now. The perfect soundtrack for the summer to make you nostalgic for getting your heart broken, because at least that was better than Bam.
Seattle Kraken!
The NHL announced that there's a new team and it's called the Seattle Kraken, and it looks like those S's that you would draw in the corners of your notebook when you were in high school. So first of all, obviously this is great. Fan. All of the teams around sports leagues and around the country that have racist names, take note. You can get a whole positive news cycle out of just changing your name. Big upside in terms of marketing potential. You come up with a cool ass name, you slap a funny logo on it, you put some cool colors, you sell a whole bunch of new merch, and people are like, this is hilarious, we love it, lol. It sounds great. The message of the Seattle Kraken is that every team should change their name, but especially the ones that have racist names. All right, let's do humble proposal. I hate the new extra innings rule, in which a runner just appears magically and without merit at second base from the 10th inning on. It feels entirely arbitrary and antithetical to the overarching logic that has governed every baseball inning since the game was invented until now. Unfortunately, in the early part of this strange season, this stupid rule has proven actually pretty effective at generating action expediently and, crucially given the time crunch this year, getting games over with. But if that's a non-negotiable goal, might I suggest an equally arbitrary and otherwise entirely superior rule change? Consider this. In extra innings, all on-field foul territory is now fair. Anything into the seats or that touches the net protecting the seats is still out of play. But otherwise, if you make contact, it's a live ball. This has the effect of bigger fields that benefits the offense, leading to a quicker resolution. And rather than mess with the fundamental fabric of the game, it specifically targets part of the pace of play problem. Foul balls prolong at-bats, and for the wonky purists, that kind of interplay between pitcher and batter has an appeal. But if we're trying to cut to the chase, why not start by making every hit, anywhere on the field, count? It's at least a little weird, especially considering how variable foul territory can be ballpark to ballpark. And I get that it sounds so radical it's almost silly. But compared to the runner on second, I think it's actually pretty elegant, subtle, and much more in keeping with the spirit of the game. Honestly, I'm kind of into it.
Let's do
Sounds
it.
pretty cool to me.
Now we've done 3 weeks in a row without bandwagoning a team. We had a team picked out for this week before the news happened. And so if the news stops happening for next week, we will bandwagon them then. See you guys there.